Welcome to Tea Time with Chris, a podcast that celebrates faith, humor, and the power of storytelling. I'm Chris Tomlinson, your host, and I'm thrilled to invite you to join me for engaging conversations with people from all walks of life. Together, we'll sip some tea, or whatever you prefer, and explore life's joys and challenges with a focus on hope, inspiration, and positivity. I'll also share some of my personal stories and some poetry to add a touch of intimacy and creativity to our chats. So join me as we spread love, joy, and laughter with each episode. Welcome to Tea Time with Chris. Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of Tea Time with Chris. As usual, I'm your host, Chris. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join me with a nice cup of tea and some great conversation. I've got a very special episode today. I'm so excited to jump into it, but first, the tea flavor of the week. This week's flavor of tea is pretty unique compared to the other flavor of week. This comes out of Japan, and it's called matcha, I believe. It is made from a shade-ground tea leaf that are carefully grounded into a vibrant green powder. It has a rich umami flavor with a hint of sweetness and a creamy mouthfeel. That sounds actually pretty good. I want to try that. It is known for its high concentration of antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. Provides a sustained energy boost due to its combination of caffeine, promoting a state of calm alertness. It is also believed to support metabolism, detoxification, and mental clarity. The unique preparation method of whisking the powder with hot water allows for the consumption of the entire tea leaf, maximizing its health benefits. That sounds really good. I want to try that. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am excited to jump into today's episode of Tea Time with Chris with special guest, Teniel Jayne. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, like just a little introduction of who you are and what you do.
Hello. My name is Teniel Jayne. You're right, it's super awkward.
It is.
But you'd think I'd be used to this by now. But my name is Teniel Jayne, and I live alone in Malawi, Africa. And about 7 years ago, I sold everything I had, a piece of land. I liquidated my art company, and I came to Malawi. I was only supposed to be here for a couple months, but God had different plans. And now, 6.5 years later, I'm still here. So when I first got here, like I said, I was only supposed to be here for a couple months, but then the needs just started presenting themselves in the most tangible ways. And because I had just liquidated my life, I had about $28,000, which I kind of thought my life would be worth more than that, but that's neither here nor there. Technically, by Malawi standards, I was a millionaire. So when somebody needed school fees or medical support or something like that, it was like so easy to just do it. And then 6 months later, I had negative $2 in my bank account and my first foster daughter and 3 dogs. My mom called me and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I don't think I'm done."
Yeah.
And so I had 34 followers on Facebook at the time. I wasn't very into social media, but then I was desperate. I didn't have a way home. So I made a post and somebody sent me enough money for a plane ticket. And that same day, a kid came needing cancer treatment that was the same cost as my ticket. So I just
Mhm.
filtered it through me. And
Yeah.
then that happened again. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And now here we are 7 years later, almost 7 years later. And I kind of like, people say that, God opens doors and stuff like that. But I feel like this was more like this little tiny, impossibly high window. And it was like, can I fit through that even? And I kind of felt like if I went back to America at that point, it would haunt me for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you have to go to sleep with yourself. So it was
Mhm.
like, I just, I had a chance and I had this freedom from debt and from owning things. And I think that's something that not a lot of people get an opportunity to experience in life, especially in America.
Right.
That rat race that we're just ripped into. And suddenly I was on the outside of it. And it's
Mm.
so bizarre to be outside and look back. And it was kind of, God was like, this, you can do this.
Mhm.
And so I jumped
Yeah.
like high, like far.
Yeah, you did. That's amazing though. Like I've been following you for a while. I don't know how long, but I know I've been following for a while. And
It's been years, I think, that we've
yeah,
been
it's
friends.
been
Yeah.
years. Yeah. And it's been really awesome to like see the things you do and how God uses you just out of nowhere sometimes, just boom, just it's there. And you're just like, all right, I'm here. It's happening. And you just
You
do
know,
it.
trust falling into grace is
Mm.
addictive because there's like all these things that the Bible says, like if you give away all you have and you serve, like you'll never be hungry. And I always thought that was like just something religious people said, but it's not. It's a promise.
Hmm.
And when you start to see these promises play themselves out, and it's such a unique, I don't know how it happens for other people, Chris. I only know that it's really, it's just, it's the benefit of serving a living God, you know?
Right. Right.
So it's
Yeah.
just
I know
good,
that
man. It's just so good.
I know it's not the same thing as you, but I know when I went through being homeless and everything, I had like nothing, and it was just me and the girls, and I was just trying to make it with them and trying to, supply what I could for them, but I didn't have hardly anything, but we did it somehow. And I just remember during that time just thinking, well, how am I going to do this? Like, this is no way. Like, there's no way. And then God just comes out swinging and just boom, just full force. It's just amazing.
I remember this time I had, when I had first given away everything and it was all still very like, I felt like the money that I had was monopoly money. Like it wasn't real money because it's in another
Mhm.
currency. So it's easy to give it away because it's not like real money. It's
Yeah.
like pink and purple and blue and green. It looks like that's monopoly money.
Oh, yeah.
But then when it was gone, it was actually though really gone though. Like even the
Hmm.
monopoly money was gone. Like, okay, but what about my real money? No, that's also gone.
Yeah.
And I went to the kitchen to make dinner, and at that moment, because I'm the most irresponsible person in the world, which I think is why God used me, um, I realized that we didn't even have an egg to split between us for dinner. And
Mm.
I had my first foster daughter who was 12 at the time, and I went back to my bedroom and I hit my knees and I was just like, God, I have severely messed this up. Like you gave me this nest egg that I was more money than I've ever had in my life. And what did I do? I gave it away. Like I have nothing to show for it. And
Right.
I felt like a failure and I
Mm,
begged for forgiveness. And God was like, this is exactly where I want you. I
mm,
want you alone, broke, in a foreign country with nothing but me, and watch what I do. And I just remember crying to God and thinking, like, I can't even feed this girl. I'm so irresponsible. I can't even feed this girl who's living in my home. Um, but I can't send her back either because she was
mm.
coming from this terrible place. And in my relationship with God, it's usually just like inklings, you know? I don't, I'm not a prophet. I don't see visions or anything. It's
Right.
very normal. I'm so normal. And but this was like an audible voice that I was like,
Mm,
don't send her away. I'll take care of you both. And it was so overwhelming that I just stood up and I dried off my tears. And I was like, I was just walking to tell her that we didn't have dinner and got a knock on the back door. And it was this woman who I had supported her loved one through the hospice process, supplying catheters and medicine and things. And she had brought her harvest from her farm.
oh,
And she looked at me and she said, I know that you're white and you probably have so much food, but, and this is probably nothing to you, but I just wanted to share. And I lost it. I was like, this,
yeah.
are you kidding? I'm going to cry right now. I was like, this is everything. It
Mm,
wasn't just the food. It wasn't just the dinner. It was the confirmation. You
yeah.
know, it was that God is really going to have me. He's really going to not leave me. And wherever I am, I have his blessing to be here.
Mm,
And it was just, that was the first like lightning strike of faith of like,
yeah.
oh, this is real though. God is like really going to do something though. And
Um,
man, I mean, for all of the hard stuff, you know, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. When we get later in our life and we look back, it's like those hard years, we were always like, oh, but those were good years,
yeah.
you know, because
Yep.
those are the years we remember. The
Hmm.
comfort years, those just disappear into
Hmm.
nothing. It's the years that we're challenged and forced to grow and forced to lean into God. We're like, oh, that was a good year though. That
Yeah.
was a good year. I wouldn't
Yep.
do it again for $1 million.
Right.
That I would do that first 2 years in a foreign country with no money. I don't know that if
Yeah.
God would have told me what he had for me, I'd have been like, no, you definitely picked the wrong girl. But he doesn't tell me. He still hasn't told me anything.
Hmm.
So only God
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. What was your life like before you came to Africa?
I was raised in a really small mountain town. I'm trying to think, how far back should we go? I was raised in a really small mountain town that's about half the size of this rural village that I live in now. And it is a coal mining town in the very northwest corner of Craig, Colorado. So it's extremely cold, negative
Mm.
30 to negative 57 in the winter. And it's desert. So in the summertime, it's 100 degrees in the day, and you just never
Wow.
put your sweaters away. You never put your jackets away all year round.
Uh,
And it's about 3 hours to the closest city.
mm.
So, I mean, I was almost 20 before we had proper internet, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know anything about Canada. Like, I don't know anything. If you can't figure out how to record this, Chris, you're on your own. I can't help you. I make beautiful bricks, though.
That's a good thing, though. You need bricks. So
Somebody's got to make the bricks. Yeah.
exactly. So what made you decide to just go to Africa? Was it just a spur of the moment, or did you have like plans or
Well, God is so good. Okay. So I was a live-in nanny for a little baby, and in Steamboat Springs, which is really like kind of ritzy, posh place. It's like Craig is like the working community of the resort community. So I lived in this gorgeous resort town, And I don't have any experience with babies at all, but God was like, I really want to put you here. And so I took this position as a live-in nanny, which was really because I was doing construction. I was always doing like serving work and physical work, and um, which is so crazy to me now looking back, because Malawi, especially the women in Malawi, have taught me to be so feminine that when I look back on that, I'm just kind of surprised that I got away with flying under the radar for so long. But the babies that I was looking after, the two children that I was looking after, they kind of graduated, I guess, out of needing a nanny. And so I was kind of in this limbo place. And then my one of my dearest friends had just moved to this area of Malawi and told me that the internet was really great out here. And so while I was doing the nanny work, this is kind of like it's kind of weave it. Okay. When I was doing the nanny work, I was also doing hospice work, but for volunteering. And then I owned a little art company where I would make um, furniture out of like broke down stuff, and I would make reclaim stuff from the dump and stuff. It was just a silly little thing, but it was doing well. But I really loved my hospice work, and I wanted to do hospice full time. So I thought if I got online counseling degree, maybe I would qualify for a paid position in hospice and I could just do that full time. And so my friend was like, yeah, there's great internet up here. So when I sold everything, I bought a laptop and I came out here and I was like, give me 2 months to just focus on this degree. And then when I went back to America, I would have this little nest egg to kind of, get a new apartment and, just it seems like sometimes throughout life we get these little transition times
Mhm.
where it's, we have a chance to reinvent ourselves.
Right.
And yeah, so I came out here, and while I was setting up my computer and getting, because, it's like a different phone company, a different internet source. And while I was sorting all that out, I fell in love with this puppy because I'm a dumb girl. And then I fell in love with another puppy because I'm just like, I mean, don't underestimate the amount of dumb girl that I am. So I got two puppies, and they needed a series of 2 months of injections in order to bring them back. And I thought I would bring them back to America and train them to be service dogs. And I would just be I would take them to hospice, and I'd
Mhm.
be that girl with her two African mutts. I had this plan. I had a plan, and got here, and the internet completely failed. There was enough for like Facebook to like upload and download, but it would circle a lot. It would
Yeah.
load a lot, but there was nothing near what I needed for an online degree. And so then I was just stuck. I had 2 months to get these dogs their series of injections to get them imported. So suddenly I was living in this little bungalow on the beach with no electricity and no water and two puppies and no debt. And and I remember thinking, I don't know where it is that people are trying to get to, but I have made it. I'm
Yeah.
there. Like I have arrived. What can life hold for me now? I really felt like I had no idea what I was in for. Calm before the storm.
Yeah.
And then I remember there's no washing machines or anything. So I was washing my clothes in the lake. I don't know, like a whirlpool washer. I was doing the thing, trying to, and
Right.
apparently there's a technique, and that's not it.
Yeah.
So the women would walk by me and they would just laugh at me. And it really hurt because I'm a
Yeah.
very capable person. And these women made me feel like such a clown. And so this little girl, one day, she would always bring her family's dishes and laundry down to the lake. And so she came one day, and I would always like smile at her and try to talk to her. And there was a big language barrier because I didn't know any of the language. And finally, one day she came over to me and she showed me how to hold my hands and how to work the fabric between my knuckles and get it clean.
Mhm.
And the next time the women walked by, they looked at me and they were like so excited to make jokes. And they looked at me and one of them said, "You're actually doing it." And I was like, And the little girl
Wow.
next to me, she like got all proud and, she was proud of her Mzungu, proud of her white woman. And I was just so grateful. And then it hit me like a brick across the head. Why is she not in school? So then I
Mm,
started talking to her more and found out that her father had just died and they moved in with her grandfather and they didn't have enough money for her to go to school. And she was kind of the workhorse age for the family. So all the dishes and laundry and everything was put on her. So I went to her mom and I asked, if I paid for her school fees, would you let her go back to school? And her mom agreed. And that was the beginning. That was the start. And then the next couple days later, a fisherman came. He had fallen in the water and cracked his head open on a stone and just needed some just basic first aid. And then another case came needing really just basic first aid. And that just, and then yeah, and then it just went crazy.
yeah.
People heard that there was somebody who was doing something, and they didn't know what it was, but they heard that somebody was helping, and so I mean, there were some days in the first year, 2 years that I was here where I would open up my door at 6 in the morning, and there would be a line down the
Oh, wow.
street of people. Oh yeah, like 20 people, 30 people down the street, malaria tests and
Wow.
school fees and businesses and I was having so much fun, Chris. I was having so much fun because I've always wanted to do something. You see these commercials and you see this stuff when you're back home and it's like your heart just breaks, but you know how corrupt the system is. And it's like, I'm not giving you 30 cents a day so you can buy another Lamborghini, so you can
Right.
have $1 million bonus at the end of the year. And it was right about the time that all that American Red Cross debacle came out. And it was just so nice to be able to finally do something about it. And I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change a thing. But again, if God would have told me, I'd have been like, no, no,
Yeah.
totally unqualified for this position. Or God
Yep.
doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
Yep.
Right. I think he does both, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, I'm definitely on the other end of that.
Yeah. He always uses the ones that people think wouldn't be the greatest or something. He always just picks it out ones that just shocks everybody, and you're just like, will they?
When it
Them really?
when it started, when it actually like when more followers started coming in and more I don't want to say opportunities, but like when I started to really grasp what was happening and I realized that I could actually make this a thing, um I remember going to God and being like, I am not good enough to
Mm,
serve in this
mm,
capacity. I'm not, I mean, I was raised, my dad was a truck driver. I grew up doing construction and just like, I have a mouth like a sailor 90% of the time. I'm, I don't know. Somebody has since told me the worst sinners make the best saints. And I think that's so
mm.
true.
I am.
But I just remember God just encouraging me and holding my hand. And I mean, I can't, that's, I think, one of the things that you and I have connected on the most over the years is just such a level of loneliness.
Mm,
When I hear you talk about how lonely you are and that isolation and you're suffering within your isolation, and it's like you don't want to bring people into that because
right.
it's not their burden, it's not their
Right.
story, it's your story. But at the same time, you want to be seen and you want to be heard and you want somebody to feel you on that level. And I
Yeah.
remember some of the first writings I ever read from you, I was like, it's like he's me. Like, I feel like he's speaking about, because I mean, there's sometimes I've been so, because everybody's dumping their load onto me. And I know you're supposed to like put it back onto God, but that's like a bumper sticker. That's not how human minds and spirits
Exactly.
work in
Yeah.
reality. Sometimes it just helps that, I mean, that's why we're supposed to be the church, is the people, is the family, that you're supposed to be able to express yourself like that. And then to see your soul mirrored in another person is that validation, and that like, oh God, I'm alone, but I'm not alone in my aloneness,
Exactly.
And that
Yeah.
was really comforting. And I really appreciate how vulnerable you allow yourself to be. And even after so many years of going through this, you still keep your heart tender, and you keep your heart open and vulnerable for anyone to see and criticize. And that to me is like, I mean, anyone can harden themselves because
Mhm.
the world is so brutal. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the definition of conforming to the world, right? To
Right.
go through, especially, I mean, gosh, you fight, man. You fight all the time. I mean, even just, I mean, for your home,
Mhm.
for transport, for your health, for everything is just like, I just appreciate you. That's all. Even from
Thank
over
you.
here, I'm like, man, there's a guy after my heart, because I'm just, it really helps to be alone. People don't understand the level of self auditing
Yeah, I
that
know
you
what you
can do,
mean.
you know?
I know exactly what you
There's
mean.
people who surround themselves, they're not alone, but they've got baggage.
Right.
But part of being isolated is, unpacking your stuff. Like there's no
Right.
distractions. You just gotta, yeah, work through it. Yeah,
Exactly.
I appreciate that.
I don't like being alone, but there are times where I enjoy it because it gives me time to reflect
Mm,
on things. It gives me time to think and just pause and listen,
mm,
just listen, and I like to go outside sometimes and just watch nature and how it just plays out. And just for me, it's a reminder that everything that might seem out of control to me, it's okay because everything else is in control. God's in control no matter what. And it just fascinates me to just sit there and watch like the birds just play and the trees just sway and I just get lost in it because it's just a reminder that, God's there and it's okay,
yep.
Chris. It's going to be okay.
Well,
Uh,
even the Bible says the story of creation is written all over nature.
exactly.
Nobody can ignore it. It's, yeah.
Exactly.
When people are like, they're like, oh, the lake is my church. I'm like, I appreciate that. The church is people, not the building,
Mhm.
so let's not get confused. But still, I appreciate that you feel closer to God when you're alone than when you're
Mhm.
surrounded by people. But I
Right.
also understand that some people are so extroverted that they don't feel, they need that. So I just think
Right.
there's room for everybody. You do what
Right.
works for you. What works for Chris and what works for me might not work for you, and that's okay
Right.
too. Yeah,
Exactly.
just do you. Thank God, because you'd be in Africa and it would be a lot. But if you do end up in Africa, call me.
I will. You'd be the first person. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I gotta find her.
I know where to find ice cream.
Oh well, that's a plus right there. That's
Yeah,
all
it's a
set right
drive,
there.
but it's worth it.
It's all set right there. Is there anything you miss about America?
I miss my family and my friends.
Yeah.
It's hard because like I've been home once in the last 4 years. And so my niece and my nephew are adults now, because that
Mm,
happens. Other people's kids grow up so fast. But
yeah.
people have died since I've been here, that
Mm,
I don't have to process it until I go home. And then I want to reach out to that person. It's like, oh no, John died. And it's like, oh
yeah.
God, I
Uh,
totally, because I'm here and you can't live in two worlds.
exactly.
And people get divorced and they have babies and life moves on. And I think that's what's really hard, is you hope that when you leave, you press pause,
Mm,
and that when you come home, it'll just be the same. And then you're
right.
like, hey, can I crash on your guys' couch this weekend? I'm coming through town. And they're like, we're not married anymore and we don't even live there. It's like, oh,
Uh,
well,
oops.
that's a shame, because I feel like we should have coffee, catch
Yeah.
up. What's really hard is the people that I was really close to. I feel like I'm the same person I've always been, but I think something in them makes it seem like I'm not. So when
Mm,
you hang out, there's like this awkwardness of maybe not necessarily like getting to know each other again, but um convincing them I'm still totally me, you know?
Right.
When they invite you over to dinner and then they feel guilty about, throwing out what they didn't eat. They're like, oh, I should save this. I'm like, well, I know some hungry kids in Africa. If you want an address, you can send it to them. I'm not really sure what you want from me. It's fine. It's fine. You didn't finish your mashed potatoes. That's totally fine. I still love
Right.
you.
I used to use that excuse as a kid when my parents would be like, well, if you don't, this kid's in Africa that are hungry, you better eat this. I'd be like, all right, give it to him. Take it and give it to him. They
You know
like look
what's
at me
really
like,
funny?
oh.
Now I'm a mom, right? I've got these foster kids that live with me. And when I make dinner and we sit down to eat, and there's inevitably at some point in time, one of the kids will be like, I don't want to eat this. And it's like, there are starving kids in Africa. Like, that doesn't work as
It doesn't
well.
work.
Just eat, okay?
Yeah,
Just eat.
just eat. Just eat it. What's your favorite thing about living in Africa?
Freedom.
Mm,
Freedom. Like freedom the way that it was intended. Like the freedom of, first off, I own the company, right? So I can do whatever I want any day of the week. Turns out I'm a workaholic though. I kind of thought if I worked for myself, I'd get lazy, but I work for myself now. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. without an alarm because I'm like,
wow.
let's get this day. Yeah, it's like, I just didn't realize I didn't like working for other people. Like that was
Mm,
why I was like, why am I going to make someone else wealthy?
right.
Now it's like I have so much purpose and drive, and the people that you're helping, and the kind of results that are going to come out of hard work, and it's going to change somebody's life. So it's so motivating to like do stuff in a way that I was never motivated in America, working 3 jobs, serving and um hustling for cash, just to pay the bills. Here it's like
Right.
my rent is $65 a month.
Wow.
It's like, I mean, we don't have hot water or stove or bathtubs or, a
Mm,
fridge. We have a little like dorm room fridge that somebody gave
yeah.
us in 2020 when the lodge closed down. Oh gosh, to have a cold drink of water
I
is the
bet.
big deal. And, we don't have a lot of the amenities that I think come standard in America.
Right.
And at first it was really fun, like
Mm.
glamping, It's like, this is fun. I can do this. And then
Glamping.
after a while, it's like, this is not fun anymore. I
Mm,
want a bath. I had a
yeah.
hard day and I want a bath and I want to microwave my dinner. I
Yeah.
want a drive through. Can I just have a drive through? Do I have to cook dinner on charcoal again tonight?
Mm,
And and then you get to the other side of that where you're just so used to it that
mm,
it's like it's just life. Like you don't even think about it anymore. If you have
right.
electricity, you have it, and if you don't, you don't. So
Right.
when the electricity goes off, it doesn't even skip you in a sentence, you know.
Mm,
But back to the freedom. When you buy land here, you own it.
mm.
If you want to build a house, build a house. There's no, structural collapse is one of the leading causes of death, but still, you can do it. That's your choice. But like, it's so crazy to me coming out of America how much control the government has
Mm,
in America. And it's just like more control and more control. And every time I go home, it's like there's more laws. I would be so terrified as a foreigner if I moved to America because it's just like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, here,
yeah.
you can do anything you want, really, which is,
Right.
it's good and bad. But for me, it's great. I didn't know that like when I bought land here, it was the very last of my um money, and I've done nothing with it. I just felt led to buy it, but I haven't done anything with it. And but it's there, and every year I think about property taxes.
Mm,
I think like, is somebody going to come and take this? They're like, why would somebody take it? It's your land. Don't I
mm.
have to like pay for it? They're like, you did pay for it, but like, don't I have to pay for it again? Because it's just,
Uh,
it's such a liberating concept to know that it's
You
mine.
actually own it. Like,
I
yeah,
own it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You
And
don't
when you
need like
explain to
permits or
people,
anything?
no,
Wow.
not at all, which is terrifying.
But that's cool too, though, because if you want to
Well,
build something, you can build it.
Louisiana's like that too. So
Yeah, true.
well, I
True.
mean, just the no permit side of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really, I mean, it's basically anarchy. It's like the police are there, but it's such a corrupt system, and it's really, so it's a lot of village justice, which is brutal and swift.
Mm.
And that's kind of, it's just such a different culture, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I go back to America, I'm like, just the cost to feed yourself
Yeah.
for a day, even simply the cost of rent. I can't, after 7 years here, I cannot wrap my mind around $1,000 a month for a studio apartment. I'm
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
that's a million kwacha. That's a million kwacha a month for rent. And the minimum wage here is basically $50 a month.
Oh wow.
So like I can't, when I go home, I'm like, yeah, I want some coffee, but I paid $6 for a cup of coffee. Are you kidding me? That's 6,000 kwacha. No, that's insane.
Yeah.
I just, that's that's hard. But yeah, that freedom of like, even like the dollar exchange, you know, like everything I've done here is basically on small donations from Facebook. So I mean, I love to speak in the churches in America, and I do have some that give me love offerings, which is really, I mean, the timing on those has been phenomenal. Um, but I don't partner with anybody. So it's just, I don't know. Well, that's what God says, you know, I've come to set you free.
For me, like one of my dreams when my kids are like grown up and on their own is I want to sell everything and get like an RV and just travel around, just travel. And I know obviously an RV can't go across the water, but I can take a ferry or something or get rid of the RV and go over and explore the rest or whatever. But I just want to like see what the world is like. Like I want to see what God created. Like I want to see all of it. And I want to
Man,
be
there's a
able
lot to
to,
see.
oh yeah,
There's a lot to see.
yes. And I know that like right now it'd be hard for me to do with my kids, even though I know that like it's possible I could, homeschool and all that. I thought about doing that, but
That's a
I,
lot.
oh yeah, it's a lot, especially when it's just me. I'm just like, but my daughter's gonna graduate next year, and I'm like, we'll just wait. I'll just wait, and but I want to be able to wake up in the morning and not like have like an American routine, I guess you could say. Like when you wake up, you get your tea or whatever, and you go and you get to work and you clock in and you work for a set of hours, then you clock out, go do more American stuff, go make sure your bill's paid, make sure you run here to pay this bill and go
Go
here
to
and
your
there.
coffee shop and fill up
Uh,
your gas tank and
uh,
yeah.
yep,
Well, the thing, you know, like we said, those days they all just disappear.
yep,
You know, those are the days I call them non-days because they're
yeah.
like, it never really happened. You get
Hmm.
so, well, I mean, and I think that's the trick of America. And I don't want to sound like a hippie,
It's okay to be hippie.
but,
I love hippies.
but it's that prison of consumerism because you live in a country that can't survive without your taxes. Like
Yep.
you have to make, you have to buy, you have to sell, you have to trade, and you have to compete with the market, and otherwise your government collapses.
Yeah.
So you're almost set up to fail because you've got a government that says, you know, don't invest in the next life, invest in this life. You know,
Yeah.
you've got this kind of Christianity that's like, you know, God wants you to have your rewards now. He wants you to,
Mm,
and I feel like that's just so,
backwards.
so backwards, so off the, and, but when you're, when it's compounded on top of you with, I mean, you're so saturated with advertisements and I mean, the social, even the social media advertisements
Mm,
are just subtle,
yeah.
but not that subtle when you get out of it. Like,
Yeah.
feel like when I step back into America, I'm being punched in the face with advertisements. Like,
Oh, yeah.
what is this?
Right.
It's a world that's built on marketing and medicine. You know, it's
Mm,
crazy. It's just so, so, I mean, it's the difference between District 1 and District 8. You know, I
yeah.
mean, it's my sister just had, when she's not my sister, she's like my best friend, but I could just call her my sister because we're like the only Americans here. So she just had a baby out on this really remote island in the middle of the lake. And she called me out to be her midwife, which is not what I do. That's a whole nother story. But I was able to leave my house here and go there. She was supposed to have the baby at basically the end of the first week that I was there, and the baby was 2 weeks overdue.
Mm,
And I think about, like, in America, if I wanted to go and be with my friend, not even my sister, my friend, while she had her baby, and take 3 weeks off of work, it would be a really big deal.
oh, yeah.
Here, it's what's expected. Like, of course, somebody has to go and take care of her, you know? And now I'm coming home to America. My mom is trying to organize her time off so that we can spend time together. And that's so heartbreaking to me because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want my mom, my poor, sweet, darling mom, who's such a hard worker, to not be able to only see her daughter once in the last 4 years. I've seen her once. Like,
Mm,
and to not be able to take that time off because it's me and just to be with me for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever is
mm,
like, it's just, it's hard to watch when I've got, you know, like you have sorted yourself out, but I know some people that, like, recently disabled, that like that transition
mm,
between, you know, that go 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 to, like, now no, be.
mhm.
That's such a hard, it's, and people, they get depressed because everything that you've been force fed your whole life, you have to do this and you have to do that, and now that's taken away from you, is like, yeah, you're right. To be able to look at your life and be like, you know what, it's actually a blessing to not be forced into that labor
Yeah.
of, I mean, I know people that make really good money that are still working. The
Yeah.
husband and the wife are each working two jobs and they're both making decent money and they still can't afford America.
When uh, when I had lost everything, when my life like totally changed like 7 years ago, and I didn't have nothing and I didn't know what to do, and I had like this pressure on me of the way you're supposed to live. Like you're supposed to have this, you're supposed to have that. And if you don't have this, then you're not really living. And it made me feel like a complete failure. Like I was like, well, I don't have a car or I don't have a wife or whatever. And then because I didn't have all that, I felt like America looked at me as like useless, like I didn't belong here no more. Like I wasn't a human being anymore, you know, like
Mm.
I just existed and that was it. And it was really hard for me to figure out how to live, you know, like how do I do this now? Because I was so used to depending on someone else. And I grew up the way I grew up, like my family is awesome. Like my mom is, I can't even say good
I've
enough
seen
stuff
some
about my mom.
interviews with your mom and she seems like a gem.
She is amazing. Like she is a rock star. Like she would give you anything. Like if it was her last piece of food, she would give it to somebody. Like she thinks about everybody else for herself. And I just remember thinking like I depended on so many people my whole life. How do I do this now? Like, how do I
Mm,
function? I don't know how to do this because I was used to well, my mom didn't do everything for me because I remember when I first had the accident. Well, I don't remember because I was 2, but
you're so
from what I
young. Yeah.
from what I was told, my mom wanted to do everything for me because she's a mother. You want to
Right.
do everything for your kid when they're hurting and their body's deformed and they don't know how to do anything with what they have now. So she wanted to do everything, and my dad told her, "You can't do that because if you do everything, he's not going to know what to do with what he
Kid's
has."
got to grow up. Yeah. What are you
Exactly.
capable of?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's got to learn how to adapt to what he's got and learn how to live with what he has because we're not going to be here
Yeah.
forever. And I had to learn, how to do things growing up that were different than other kids or whatever. And there were times it was hard where like I wanted to, like I talked in one of my other episodes of the podcast where I talked about I wanted to do sports and everything like all the other kids, but I couldn't. My body just wouldn't do it. And I couldn't understand. It would get me so mad. And so I was just used to having help. Like I would do stuff on my own, but I had help all the time. So then when my ex left and it was just me and my girls, I was like, how do I do this? Like, how do I function? I don't know what to
Yeah.
do.
Whew.
And I remember like waking up, like the first morning I woke up after she had left, I remember just sitting, like literally just sitting in my bed. Like I don't even think I was in my bed. I think I was on the floor of my sister's house. I was just sitting there and I just stared at the floor and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. There's no way. No way. I don't have
Well,
a
and
job.
heartbreak on its own, can we just
Yeah.
like back up a second? You're already devastated. The rug's
Hmm.
been pulled out from your feet. Your heart is ripped open. You
Hmm.
don't want to do anything. And most
Oh yeah.
people get to like stay in bed and eat ice cream for a couple days or
Right.
months. If you're me, whatever, and you're suffering heartbreak. But like for you, it's not just like, I have to get up and move. It's like I have to now figure out how to survive, how to live, how to raise my kids, and how to be a productive member of society, and how to like, and it's,
Yeah.
I look at your daughters and I'm just like, God, they're gorgeous, you
Yes, they
know?
are.
They're so beautiful. They look like they
Hmm.
could be in like 16 magazine. I don't
Right.
even know if that's still a magazine, but like when
I
I
don't
was a
know.
kid, we had
Yeah.
16 magazine and
Yeah.
it only had cute girls like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that they're yours and that they're with
Mm.
you, and seems like you guys have such an incredible relationship, and I don't know that you would have had that if they hadn't seen you pull yourself together, and
Right.
like you must be like such a hero to them.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. Like they tell me all the time that I'm such a good dad, but I'm always like, man, I don't know. I could be better, but thank you.
Could
But
we not all be better? I think
yeah,
everybody
exactly.
that's listening to this or will listen to this is like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the human condition.
Yeah, we can always do better somehow. But
I had so many, I mean, the horror stories that I could tell you about the stuff that I've gone through here just to be here. It's it's been such a struggle, but yeah, there's definitely having these foster daughters is like, I love children. It just never happened for me to be a mom,
mm,
but I think you learn so much about God and your relationship with God through being a father and a mother,
oh yeah.
through taking care and providing for your kids. It's like you just see, it's like it unlocks so much mercy and grace inside of you for yourself. Like not
Mm,
just for your kids, but like to see how God sees you and how he can forgive you and empathize with you and encourage you and instruct you and smack you around a bit. Like it's just such a children are such a blessing.
mm,
And I have a hard time with a lot of the moms here that they don't even know me and they're like, take my kids, and I'm like, what? Like, kind of mom are you that would just push your kids off on somebody you don't even know? You know,
Yeah.
it's just I don't I don't understand. I can't as a even a foster mom. You would have to kill me and chop off each one of my fingers to pry my children from my hands. Like
Yeah.
I am madly in love with my children.
Yes.
I can't even fathom life without them.
Yeah.
And actually today, this morning, I had to go up the mountain to get a stamp from one of the traditional authority, the senior chief is helping me with some paperwork to file for a permanent residency passport here in Malawi because there's no passport for foster parenting. There's only
Mm.
business passports, missionary passports, which I'm not. I don't do business and I'm not sent by any church. I just love God because of what he does for me, but I'm not a very religious person. I
Right.
mean, I don't want to say I'm a spiritual person.
Right.
I am religious, but not in the way that I think a lot of people are.
Right.
But my kids have been such a godsend to me, and everybody's like, "Oh, you saved those kids," and I'm like,
Mm.
"Did I though?
Yeah.
Or was it exactly what I needed in order to continue on? Or better yet, is God weaving billions of lives together and has a way of making it the most beneficial for all parties involved?"
Right.
You know?
Right. Right. Yeah, kids are definitely my kids. Any kids really are blessings to their parents and stuff.
Not all kids. Let's be real. Not all kids.
There's
Can
those
we
rare
just be
occasions. Yep.
real?
Yep.
I've met some kids, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
That's
handful.
terrible. I'll pay for that later. You can send hate mail to my Facebook. That's fine. And some mom out there's like,
Hmm.
that's my son. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you and
Yeah.
we both only have girls. But like
Yeah.
for me, I'm really thoroughly enjoying living in like an all girl house, like
Mhm.
pink and lipstick and sparkles, everything. And there's nobody there to be like, this place is too feminine. We are just stream estrogen all day. But you, as a single father of two
Mhm.
beautiful girls, I can't imagine I mean, from what I can tell, and maybe it's not true, but from what I can tell, they seem like they've got pretty good head on their shoulders. So I
Yeah.
think you probably lucked out there. But I mean, I miss when my youngest Tapua, she just turned 7, and I miss when she was that perfect size. And any parent will know this when they fit your body. You know,
Mhm.
when you pick them up and their head fits perfect here, and their little body wraps around you, and their little legs just barely dangle, and it's like that perfect body pillow size that
Yeah.
you just can't just squeeze them and try to remember that moment because it goes so fast. But
Right.
then it's like they're kind of heading into this phase right now where it's like out of my lap and less like my daughter went to bed last night and she didn't tell me goodnight and it
Oh,
devastated me.
I would me too. Yeah.
And I climbed into her net and I woke her up and I said, "No, honey, pay your taxes." That's what we call kisses
Yeah.
because I'm feeding you. Pay your taxes. No,
Yep.
wake up. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'll pay your taxes tonight." And I started kissing her. She's dead asleep. She doesn't know. It was for me.
Yeah.
But then there's this other part of me that's so excited to see who she becomes,
Hmm.
you know? Like she's got every possible opportunity available to her. And I mean, she has her own fan club. She's been with me since she was a little bit. She has an American accent.
Yeah.
And the other day I asked her if I can't remember what it was, if I was like, "Hey, let's go get ice cream," or it was something like that. It was probably ice cream. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, hot dog." What is that?
That's
Because
awesome.
it's me. You know it's me. But I was like, I wonder because had just kind of, I mean, I'm 38. I had just kind of resigned myself that I was never going to have kids. So then to suddenly turn around and see, no, she's really mine, like
Yeah.
really like mine. It's like,
Hmm.
where is she going though? What will she become?
Yeah.
And I know my mom tells me all the time how much fun it is for her to watch me live my life and to be like, I made that,
Yeah.
that's my daughter and she's doing things. And I don't know, there's part of me that just hopes that she grows up and wants to do what I do. And, but then
Hmm.
there's another part of me that's like, yeah, she's got to live her life and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I love seeing parts of me come out of my kids, and I'm like, yep, those are my kids, and I'm proud of that. It's like, yeah.
Mhm.
And my youngest has my humor. So we like will bounce stuff
Oh,
off each
nice.
other. So like we can just make jokes like instantly with each other and just laugh for hours and just make other people's laugh. Like we have that humor connection. And then my oldest, we have the whole science and space and all that stuff connection. So we're like, I can see different parts of me come out of my kids. And it's like, this is so cool. And I want to see what they're going to do with their life using these parts of
Mhm.
me and then parts of them too.
Yeah.
And they just combine. And it's so cool to see things they do because they blow my mind every time. Every time they do something, I'm just
And
like, wow.
you're so capable, Chris. Like, yeah, you have hangups, physical hangups but I feel like you're savvy and you are driven and you can do things. But like you were talking about before, there's limitations.
Mhm.
And I imagine watching your kids is like watching, a piece of you without limitations.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just like, yeah, run
Yes.
as hard as you can. What sport do you want to play? Who do you
Uh,
want to beat up? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And like,
Yeah.
you were probably the most motivational father because you're like, do it for both of us,
Yep.
like that's got to be cool. That's got to be
Yeah.
a part of like those regrets that you have when you're young, when you're talking about like you can't play sports because, of just the way that just the hand that you've been dealt, and just being able to like watch the product of yourself, like you
Hmm.
made that.
Yeah.
I know there was somebody else who also made that for you, but I don't want to talk about that. Like, but like for you, and to see your kids bloom is
Yeah.
probably fulfilling some of that longing
Oh yeah.
of just, yeah,
Yeah. I
like,
get to watch them do things that I couldn't do that I wanted to do, and they do it like it effortlessly. Like it just happens, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like it's so cool, and it's just amazing. Like I got them. When I was a kid, I was always outside, and I never could ride a bicycle, but I always wanted to ride a bicycle. But I had like a skateboard and a scooter, but I wasn't like all the other kids, but I still would, ride it, but as good as I could. So for my kids, when we got into the house that we have, that was the first thing I thought of was that, like, I want my kids to play outside in our neighborhood like I did. And I want to
yeah.
see what they do with this stuff. So for Christmas, I bought them bicycles and skateboards and stuff, and they went outside and they hopped right on it. Like they didn't need time to learn. Like they have a passion to just do things. And I love how they
And
are
they're
with
gorgeous. I
oh my
mean, and they're
gosh,
just
yes.
gorgeous.
But I don't know if that's a good thing though, because now it's scary because it's
Probably
like,
not right now, but like in the
yeah,
future,
yeah,
but the truth
yeah,
is, like, beauty on a woman without any sense is
mm,
what, a gold ring and a pig snout.
right,
But they're not just beautiful because they're physically beautiful. They're beautiful because of all their empathy and
right,
compassion and their gentleness, and that all came from you. It might not have physically like been inherited, but the way that you are with them, the gentleness that you have is just, I can't imagine a better girl dad, you know?
yeah,
Because you do love to listen and you are there and you want to be there and live through your girls and experience life with them. And that's so huge. And there's so many, like, let me tell you, this might blow your mind. Okay, men here in Malawi have hardly any place in the home for raising children. They're
Mm.
not allowed even at the hospital when
Oh
their
wow.
wife is giving birth. You cannot have a man in the delivery room.
Mm.
Absolutely not. It would be no, no.
Wow.
And so the men go drinking in town, and then the women, whether, I mean, if the baby lives, if the baby dies, if the mom is sick, like the dad, it's a celebration for him. And then afterwards, um, it's still to this day, after years of being here, when I see a man holding a baby, it like stops me.
Mm.
Like it's like, wow, good on you, because it's just
Yeah.
not something that's culturally done here. And if you were a husband and you had two daughters, especially two girls, and your wife left, those daughters would then go to your mother. Like
Oh wow.
you would not even be expected to take care for them or to have any part in their life beyond sending some small support.
Mm.
So in America, I think it's taken for granted that men have a place in the home. But
Yeah.
if I told like the Malawian community that you raised two daughters on your own like that you stood up and did that, you would be even a hero here. Like the men would look at you and be like, "What? You did how?" And I think it's so perfect because you were like sitting there having nothing, looking at your daughters and thinking that same thing, how? But then
Yeah.
you did it,
Mm.
because the difference between how and doing it is doing it.
Right.
And it's just so far beyond, I mean, an entire culture here. It's so far beyond what is even conceivable. But if
Mm.
nobody's told you that, like, I mean, I'm from far looking from the outside in, and I'm just, I'm so impressed with you and the way that you've handled your life and what you have overcome, but also like, yeah, I mean, but it's not just about, I mean, like you said, that all happened when you were so small. This is your life. It's like,
Mm.
it's who you are. But the fact that you, even just to get back up after heartbreak, even just to get back up and invest in your family and not just do that, but the way that you care about reaching out to other people and making sure that other people are also being encouraged and, using what you have, the wisdom that you've been given in all of what you've had to walk through is just really commendable. And I'm glad we're friends. I'm really glad that we met, and I'm glad that you would have me on here. I feel very honored.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm glad we've met and it's been awesome. Like you have been a huge encouragement to me when I've watched all the stuff that you go through and the stuff you do. And I hope that I become an impact on people like you do. Like I want to help people like you do.
I've
And
messaged you before on some of my harder days, and like sometimes I'm having a hard day, but then I also like you'll make a post and it's also you're having a really hard day, but your hard day is like worse than my hard day. And I'm like, and I'm over here, and trying to encourage people, but I'm like, who's encouraging me? And
mm,
you definitely encourage me. And every time I've ever talked to you, you're always so thoughtful and you always take the time to message me back. And um yeah, it's just, it's really hard to find normal people,
yeah.
people are just really bizarre these days. Like it's really hard to find somebody who's not afraid of themselves, who's not
Mm,
afraid of, I mean, you probably see yourself differently, but when I look at you, I see somebody who's just really fearless,
mm,
maybe not fearless, but courageous. Like maybe you have reservations, but you still get up and push through. And, there was, you were going through some stuff earlier. I guess it would be a while ago now from the island that I was disappeared for 3 weeks. But so things are farther now away than they were before I left. But you were having an issue of bleeding, remember?
yep.
And you were
Yep.
like, I woke up in a pool of blood this morning, and I was like, Chris, that's not normal. What do you
Yeah.
do at night? What are you doing? They're like, no, it's just a tiny skin tear. It just
Yeah.
won't stop bleeding. And I'm like, well, have you tried cotton? Like, what are you doing about the situation? And it was like days. It went on for a long time. And it was just like, I couldn't imagine waking up in a puddle of blood. I was like, oh my God, Chris,
Yeah.
stop.
That was that was terrifying. That was my first time experiencing something like that. Like I've had in the past, like different things happen to me, but like that was my first time waking up in a puddle of my own blood. And it wasn't just a little, like it was a lot. And
Yeah, the way you described it, I was like, this is a horror movie.
yeah, I
This is
had
a
pictures of it.
horror movie.
I took pictures of it because I was shocked that I was still alive. And I felt very weak when I woke up, very weak. And my daughter came in because we have a routine where like every morning, my alarm will go off and I'll make sure she's awake, she's getting ready for school, and then I'll go back in my room and just like I'll sit and like pray for a little bit, or I'll just sit and just wait for her to get ready or
Let
something.
her do her thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Smart, man.
and then she'll come in my room and be like, "Okay, we're ready to go." And when she came in and saw the blood, she's like, "Dad, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I think so. I don't know."
Just a murder, honey. Go back to bed.
She like freaked out because she's like, "It's everywhere," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's gonna be okay." It was she like it's cool that my kids know how my body works because they're used to it.
Right.
So she
Yeah.
knew exactly what to do. Like she
I don't know that
ran.
anybody's used to waking up in a puddle of blood, but yeah, she
Well, they
probably was
weren't.
more
She wasn't used.
equipped.
She wasn't used to the puddle of blood, but she was used to if Dad got a cut or whatever, this is what we got to do. So she like
Complications. Yeah.
I have this medical box, like it's just a box filled with medical supplies, like bandages and just random stuff. So she runs to it and starts grabbing stuff, comes in and starts wiping my arm up and wrapping it up and everything. And I didn't tell her anything to do. And I'm just sitting there watching her in amazement. And I'm just like, this is my kid. Like she knows how to do all this stuff. This is awesome. And it reminded me because it was like God was like, yeah, see, I told you I'd have someone to help you. I'd have people to take care of you, even when you thought you didn't have nobody. And it's amazing. My kids are so much help to me. It's ridiculous, like crazy. And sometimes I'll feel bad because I'm like, my kids don't live a normal life like other kids do. They've had to grow up faster than other kids.
I don't know that that's true. Listen, I think kids in America these days aren't asked to grow up at all.
True.
And what you've done is given them purpose beyond themselves, which is probably instilled inside of them compassion and empathy in a level that most kids won't have.
Right.
And when you give your kids compassion and empathy, you make them good people. And when you're a good people, your life is full of opportunity and friendships that last and relationships that last. And when you instill in your kids selfishness and entitlement, you're guaranteeing that they won't have a friend for the rest of their life, because ain't nobody going to put up with that.
Right.
So I mean, on one hand, I can understand, like, I feel guilty when I have to be taken care of because I'm the one who takes care, like it's hard for me to allow somebody to do something for me. But like this morning, I'm frantically finishing up this letter to the chiefs, and I've got to go to town and print it and go up to this meeting. And my mind is just so consumed with all the what ifs of it, because it's like worst case scenario is where I always go. Like, what's the worst case scenario if I approach immigration and I ask them to grant me a permanent residency passport without getting married, without, they require $10,000 and 40,000 in your bank account to prove that you can like survive here without being a burden onto the society. And so I've never had that. So it was, but the like worst case scenario, they could tell me to leave, and take my kids and take this whole life from me like that. That's worst case scenario. That's pretty bad. I don't want to cry about it right now. It's not gonna happen, but that's where my mind goes. Oh, now I'm doing it again.
I know what you mean.
Calm back down. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
It is.
But then
It
this
is.
morning, I was like, Tapua came in. She's 7 now. She just turned 7. And she's so independent because I was never supposed to be a mom. So I raised them to be super independent
Mhm.
because I am busy. Like, this is what I have to offer. Dress yourself, bath yourself,
Yeah.
learn how to use the toilet at 1 year old. Like, here's a stool, like, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so Tapi was really taken to that style of instruction. And
Mhm.
it was so wonderful this morning. I was just so stressed out. She came and she gave me a big hug. Good morning, Mom. And I was like, hey, good morning. And she's like, she was just standing there looking at me like, I just looked at her and I said, can you go make Mommy a cup of coffee? Which means you have to start the gas cooker and get the kettle on there and like and put it all together.
Yeah.
And she did. And
No.
she brought it to me. It was terrible, but it was so wonderful because I was like, just to have somebody with you, you
Mhm.
know, even if their coffee is awful, just to have somebody in it with you is such a blessing. And I think
Yeah.
that you're not a burden to your children. You are teaching them something that is so beyond, you know,
Mhm.
and sometimes I wish I could be that mom because I'm a single mom too. And like, not that you're a single mom, but I'm a single parent as
Yeah.
well. And you feel like you do have to rely on them for things because you're a unit, you know?
Exactly.
And when we had Regina came in and she was 12 and it was like, this is a lot now. This is a lot because I don't have help. And so I sat us, the 3 of us down and I said, listen, this house is our house. It's not my house that you live in. This is our house. And if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together. So you pick what corner you can hold up, and I'll hold up the bulk of it, and you take care of this and you take care of that. And we're going to work together as a unit because that's the only way this can work. I feel like giving your kids purpose, and not purpose that's like, I'm giving you this because I can and I want you to have it, but giving it to them and explaining to them, no, I need you.
Mhm.
I need your help. This house needs you. This family needs you. It's like, it gives them also purpose and drive and
Right.
responsibility and something greater than themselves. And yeah, I can, it's visible all the way from the other side of the world. The impact that you've had on your daughter's lives is really lovely. And I'm sure they have their moments.
Oh yeah. They have their moments. All kids do. All kids do. They have them. Like I remind myself a lot of times when they do slip up, I have to. Well, I don't have to. It just happens where I will remind myself. Remember how you were at that age, Chris. Remember what you were thinking, and remember
I
what was
don't
going
believe that
on.
for a second. I don't believe you had anything but holy,
Yeah,
lovely thoughts in
I
your
was an angel. I was an angel. Yep. My mom never had any issues with me ever.
Can we 3-way call her or
Oh, she's busy.
another
She's too
time? Another
busy.
time.
She's too busy.
How convenient.
Yeah. But yeah, I will remind myself like just remember they're kids, but you do have to teach them and show them, but do it in a loving, compassionate way. Don't jump down
When
their
you
throats.
can. When you
Yes.
can.
When you can,
Sometimes
yes.
you just
Yes.
gotta say, where is your mind right now? Where
Exactly.
is it? Could you go back into your bed, fold back the covers, and find the mind you left there?
Oh yeah.
You know, that's the thing about being a parent is that like it's all my stuff that gets broken, you know?
Yes.
Like that's not
Right.
fair. Like I have
Exactly.
to start over because you're learning?
Hmm.
That seems like they don't tell you that. Like
No.
how many times your heart has to break because you're their practice person,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, to learn empathy and sympathy and all that stuff. Like you're the one that has to teach that, and to
Yeah.
teach that is not something you can talk about. It's something that
Right.
you have to hurt for.
Yes. Yep. You have to go through it. like I remember reading parts where like some parts of Africa is like villages and then other parts is like cities, like skyscrapers and stuff. And it was just mind blowing to me. Like I thought it was fascinating. And
Well, like it's funny to me because I always, when I pictured Africa, I pictured jungle, but I
yeah,
think most people picture desert because the whole top big bulb is you think I don't think a lot of people think Egypt,
yeah,
but Egypt is a huge part of Africa, and that's so westernized and so developed that it's very different. And then you have, places like South Africa that are civil war, between races and just, I mean, I have no desire to go to South Africa. It's so dangerous and it's so it's just a mess right now. And then you've got, Tanzania, which is like, the traditional National Geographic Africa. But the truth is, there's so many people that
mm,
there's really only reserves left. There's not that National Geographic doesn't exist in the way that I thought it was. When I thought I
right,
was coming here, I thought I would be really rural, I was expecting like village life and it is. I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just so used to it that it doesn't
right.
come off to me like that anymore, but I remember when I went to the city, which is an hour away from here, and there's a shop right there. Do you know ShopRite? It's kind of like
Yeah, shop right. Yeah,
Kroger's or, Walmart mixed
yeah,
together. Not as much Walmart. It's more of a grocery store, but they do
right.
have like some kitchen stuff and stuff. And when I walked in, I was just like, half of me was very excited because I was like, cheese, covered like yogurt. Like it had been a long time since I had something like that. And then the other half of me was so sad because I realized that there's just not a lot left to discover in this world,
Mm,
and the way that people here lean into Western culture. And let me say this. We have a tendency as humans to worship what we don't understand.
mm,
Like things that are so different, we have a tendency to worship them or think that God is more there because we know what we know and God's not there. So
mm,
when we get in a situation where it's just so different that we can't wrap our minds around, it's easier to think that God is in that
right,
until you peel it back and realize that people are people everywhere you go.
right.
And being here has really taught me that yeah, like there's a lot of corruption and stuff, and it's different living in a patriarchal society, and there's a lot of things, but for as many people that would rob you, there's just as many people who would take you in. It's just like America, for
Mm,
as many people as would rob you in an alley, there's just as many people who would give you $1 if you asked them. It's just so there's only so many varieties of people, you
yeah,
know? And that's just true here as it is anywhere else. There's some things that are shockingly different, but when you get used to that and you can remove that from your front mind, then it's like, oh, but we're all just people. We're all just trying to figure it out. Like, doesn't
right,
matter how you dress or what your skin color is or anything. And the struggles here are relatively the same as the struggles back home. Everybody's just trying to pay their rent and feed their kids and provide maybe some sort of a pleasure, some sort of a luxury throughout life. It's just, we're all just in the same box,
right.
and what really leveled the playing field for me in world travel and different cultures and things like that. And this is going to sound terrible, but the thing that really brought it down to ground level for me was cancer.
Mm,
Because I've buried so many people in America with cancer, and I've buried so many people here with cancer, and it's just the same.
yeah,
Like it's just the same degrading horror story. and the fears and the concerns and the pain is all exactly the same. That
Yeah.
it I don't want to say it took the magic out of Africa for me. Cancer has a way of taking magic out of everything,
Anything.
but
Yeah.
it really, it kind of bridged two worlds for me. Like I always felt like I was living half my life there and half my life here. And now I'm like, no, it's really just life.
Yeah.
It's really not as exciting. I mean, like you said, like you want to get a van and travel the world and see all there is to see. And it's beautiful. I mean, there's definitely things to see. And I'm always, whenever God gives me a view that takes my breath away, like I'll sit for an entire day and just like
Yeah.
admire the glory of it. I
Yeah.
mean, there are things to see. There are things to see, but that's probably my greatest shocking revelation of living in a foreign country by myself for so long was it took me maybe 5 or 6 years to get to where I was like, oh, people, ha,
Yeah.
like, that's almost disappointing. Humility and gratitude. That is
Exactly.
the cheat code. AB, up, down, select, start. Humility and gratitude will get you unlimited lives.
Yeah.
You can mess it
Yes.
up a million times. You got humility and gratitude, no problem. Here's an
Exactly.
extra. Here's a green mushroom. One
Yeah.
more time. Try it one more time. Yep. Just sorting
Exactly.
it out like everybody else. I've had a lot of fun talking to you, Chris, and I hope that maybe in the future we can do this again.
Yeah, it'd be cool to connect. I have on I don't know if you saw on my website, but on the front, I have links to your podcast, your website. I
Oh,
have
thank you.
your pictures on there and all that stuff. Like I took, I hope you don't mind, but I put your video on it too, so that when people
No,
go on
not at
there,
all.
they
It's
can
free content. Yeah,
they
take
can
it.
hear all
It's
that
fine.
stuff
I
right
worked
away.
hard for it. If you don't share it, I'd be sad. No,
But
I
it's
mean, life is really good, and I mean, there's big things happening here, and if anybody has any questions about, because we went through so much stuff, and it leaves my story when I start telling it, it seems like it leaves more empty spaces than it does answer questions.
I know
Like
exactly what you
wait,
mean.
whoa,
Yep.
slow down. I have so many more questions right now. So, I mean, you're obviously free to message me anytime. My Facebook page is public, so you can stalk me without even telling me. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a person who just saw an opportunity and took it. And I'm just so grateful to connect with you and to have this moment to get real with each other. And I just love you, and I think you're so great. And thanks for interviewing me. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and care about my life here. It's
Yeah.
cool that you care. It's weird that you care because I'm just a person, but it's so cool that you care, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. I think you're more than a person. You're really amazing to me. Like the way just everything you do is just amazing, and you can just see the light of Christ just shine through you big time. Like I can just see God just ooze from you. It's just amazing. And it's an encouragement to just see everything you put up. And I try to keep up with everything. And I get busy sometimes, but I try to keep up. But it's really amazing to watch what you do. And I hope you know that you're making a really good impact on people globally. And you're doing a lot for God's kingdom big time. Like you're building God's kingdom big time for him. And I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the future 3 years. It's just going to be amazing. We're going to wrap it up here. One thing I wanted to tell you is that anybody donates to me and they put in missions or your name, I want to give it directly towards you. Okay. And I want it to go to you. I don't know if anybody will, and I don't know how many will, but I know I have had some people donate to me on my website. So if anybody, whoever's listening and watching, if you feel led to help in any way and you donate to on my website, it'll go straight to you to help you in this endeavor, it's mission that you have in life. And I know that every little bit helps, and I'm hoping people will. I'm really hoping, praying people will, because I don't get, like I said, I don't get it all the time. But randomly, I'll be sitting there, and all of a sudden, I get a pop up on my phone from the website, like, "Oh, this such donated this." So if you're listening, make sure you put missions or I don't know if I say your name right. Is it Teneil? Is that how you say it?
Teneil, yeah,
Teneil?
Teneil.
Good. Okay, so if you put in Teneil or missions, make sure you put that in so I know, and I will send it to her to
You're so
hopefully
cool.
help. I
Thank
hope,
you so much.
I really hope people do, but we'll see. And I will make
Only you, Chris, would be like, I will send you money. Only you would do that.
um,
But also for anyone listening, you do not need to do that.
right.
You know what I would want more than money? Follow me. Come on
Mm,
Facebook and just get on this journey. Yeah, okay. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that happen here, but I'm also funny. I'm
yeah,
funny.
you're
So, and
hilarious.
I try to make it like I do a lot of like community stuff, but it's my personal Facebook. So it's a lot about like what I am going through. It's not a 50 cent a day commercial. It's not, I mean it's full of hope and life and joy and not super preachy. My faith is my faith, your faith is your faith. We all got there on our own conclusions for our own reasons. So like you're
Right.
welcome though. And it's just like there's some things that are coming up that I'm honestly myself I'm really excited about. Like
Mm,
I'm not gonna even say it, but like if you enjoyed some of the stories that we've talked about today, I got stories for days.
yeah.
Like every day is here is that's my prayer is that God would just give me something good today. Like give me a
Right.
story today, and he's been really faithful about that. I feel like that's like one of those when you pray you know, in God's will.
Yeah.
And God like really loves a good story as much as I do. I mean, he wrote the book, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I kind of I want people to follow me not because of the finances, which is great. I can't do
Mm,
anything without finances. That's I mean, I would be silly to say otherwise. But because it's so much fun,
yeah.
you know? And it's like it's real proper adventure. It's not screened through and, edited out. It's like, this is really real. This is
Mm,
what is it really like if you've ever wanted to sell all you have and buy a one-way ticket to a developing country and give it all away? Like, this is what it's really like. Do you want
yeah.
to know what it's really like? You don't have to fall in those holes. You can just join me and honestly, Chris, if you ever wanted to come here, I would be happy to pick you up at the airport
Yeah.
and bring your daughters and your dog, your beautiful dog. And you're welcome. Yeah, you're totally welcome. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, but
Yeah.
you also, my friend, are not a faint of heart kind of person. So
Right.
I think you would enjoy it. I think you'd do well here.
Yeah. It would be cool. I'd be interested. I've never really been out of the US unless you count seeing Niagara Falls in Canada, which I don't count because it's like right there. But
Canada. Yeah.
yeah, I've never been out of the US, and
You've
I've always
never been
wanted
out of
to.
North America. Let's say that.
Right, North America, right. But I would love to be able to go to other countries and just see what it's like and
The
just
invitation is
experience.
absolutely open for you.
I'll have to jump on those plans and see what I can do. If we can make that happen, that would be cool. But
And listen, like today is one thing, but we got time,
yeah,
I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
exactly. Right.
Yeah, who knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows? Yeah.
Maybe you'll be one of my stops in the future when I'm with my RV and stuff.
Yeah. Be really bizarre if you pulled up to my house in an RV. I'd be like,
Right.
that's random.
uh, like, how'd you
Where
get
did
that
you
over
find
here?
an RV?
Right. I just did it. I just put a raft on it and we just went for it.
Right?
Yeah, hopefully that'd be cool
You're
one
the
day.
best.
Yes. Oh, that's actually my dream vehicle is a
I
VW
can see
bus.
that. I can
Uh,
totally see that.
I would love
VW
that.
bus. Even put the flowers on it. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
I don't
shag
care.
carpet
I'll let my
inside.
girls decorate it. Like, I don't care. This looks amazing. So yeah, so thank you again for doing this. This has
Yeah.
been awesome, and it's been great to talk to you and actually see you face to face and talk to you for once instead of just through texts.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
I really appreciate it, and I hope to catch up with you again soon, and hopefully we can do like a follow-up interview in the future, maybe, and hear some more stories and some updates and everything, and that'd be really cool. And I have it on my website when they if you go to my website and you click on your picture, it'll go directly to your Facebook, so people can follow you.
That's basically magic to me.
So it's pretty much like right there, like right when you go, it's teatimewchris.com. You'll see updates, and right there is your picture, links to your podcast, your everything. So make sure you guys go and follow her and support her. And if you feel led to donate, like I mentioned before, it's been awesome. Thank you so much again. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and just enjoy your time with your girls and all that stuff. You have just listened to Tea Time with Chris, a podcast filled with hope, faith, joy, love, and occasional laughter. We hope you enjoyed it and continue to stay up to date with us at teatimewchris.com. God bless.